Chapter 5 introduces the concept of Moore's Law and the managerial implications of faster and cheaper computing. This trend suggests that as technology advances, new industries, business models, and products will be created, and established firms and ways of doing business will be destroyed. The chapter also describes the factors that threaten to slow down the advancement of Moore's Law and the various technologies that can counter these forces. It also describes how supercomputing and grid computing are empowered by Moore's Law and ends with a discussion on the environmental issues caused by faster and cheaper computing. The phenomenon of faster, cheaper computing is often referred to as Moore's Law, after Intel co-founder Gordon Moore. The more popular definition of Moore's Law states that chip performance per dollar doubles every 18 months. Moore's Law isn't really a law, just a prediction of future events based on past observations. Moore's Law applies to chips, broadly speaking, to processors and chip-based storage. The microprocessor is the part of the computer that executes the instructions of a computer program. Random access memory, or RAM, is chip-based memory. The RAM inside a personal computer is volatile memory, meaning that when the power goes out, all is lost that wasn't saved to non-volatile memory. In other words, a more permanent storage media like hard disk or flash memory. Volatile memory is storage that is wiped clean when the power is cut off from a device. Flash memory is a non-volatile chip-based storage, often used in mobile phones, cameras, and MP4 players. RAM is a temporary storage that provides fast access for executing computer programs and files. Cameras, MP4 players, USB drives, mobile phones, and even many lightweight notebook computers often use flash memory, sometimes called flash RAM or flash storage. It's not as fast as the RAM used in most traditional PCs, but holds data even when the power is off. It is the chip-based equivalent of a hard drive. Apple's MacBook Air was one of the first commercial notebook PCs to offer flash memory. Chips are solid-state electronics, meaning no moving parts, so they are less likely to fail and they draw less power. Computer chips are sometimes also referred to as semiconductors. Semiconductors are substances that are capable of enabling as well as inhibiting the flow of electricity. Strictly speaking, Moore's Law doesn't apply to other technology components. But other computing components are also seeing their price versus performance curves increase exponentially. Data storage doubles every 12 months. With an equipment change at the ends of the cables, the amount of data that can be transmitted over an optical fiber line can double every 9 months. However, precision and predictability is tough to achieve. For example, some think the advance in hard drive storage, called Kreider's Law, is decelerating while others think it will accelerate. Despite fluctuation, it's clear the price-performance curve for technologies is exponential. These graphs are useful to managers as guides for future price-performance trends. Sony, a firm once synonymous with portable music, has ceded its market dominance to Apple because it failed to take advantage of opportunities presented by Moore's Law. When technology gets cheap, price elasticity kicks in. Price elasticity refers to the rate at which demand for a product or service fluctuates with price change. Tech products are highly price elastic, meaning consumers buy more products as they become cheaper. Implications of price elasticity of technology products are that entire new markets open up as firms find new uses for the new chips. The evolving waves of computing people have seen over the previous decades are as follows. In the first wave, in the 1960s, computing was limited to large room-sized mainframe computers that only governments and big corporations could afford. Moore's Law kicked in during the 1970s for the second wave, and many computers were a hit. The 1980s brought Wave 3 in the form of personal computers, and by the end of the decade, nearly every white-collar worker in America had a fast and cheap computer on their desk. In the 1990s, Wave 4 came in the form of internet computing. Cheap servers and networks made it possible to scatter data around the world at the same time that fast, cheap PCs became mouse-click easy and PC ownership became common in the industrialized world. The following decade saw mobile phones drive what can be considered computing Wave 5. Today, many say the sixth wave of computing can be considered the era of pervasive computing, where technology is fast and so inexpensive that it is becoming ubiquitously woven into products in ways few imagined years before. It's in the throwaway radio frequency identification or RFID tags that track people's luggage in the airport. It's the brains inside of robot vacuum cleaners. It's built into Legos, and it's the table lamps that change color when the stock market moves up or down. It's in the eye beacon sensors that help you find a hot dog and beer at the ballpark. It's in smart speakers like Echo and HomePod. It's empowering wearables from smartwatches to in-shirt sensor to Snapchat spectacles. We might even see a seventh wave where computing in the cloud and fast telecom push the computing of huge remote brains out to all sorts of edge devices, from vision systems in driverless cars to voice recognition in your home speakers. The digital shifts can rearrange entire industries. Former Apple Vice President Tony Fadell's new company, Nest Labs, a post-Apple act, is decidedly sixth wave and seeks to smarten up the lowly thermostat with high-impact results. The Nest is loaded with Moore's Law smarts, motion sensors to tell if anyone's in a room, a temperature sensor, a Wi-Fi connection to grab weather conditions outside. It even runs Linux. Nest users report shaving their heating and cooling bills by about 20%. Google believed in Nest enough to buy it for $3.2 billion, making it Google's second most expensive acquisition. Apple's HomeKit iOS extensions can control all sorts of Nest-like smart devices for the home, including thermostats, lighting, locks, and home security systems. Cambridge, Massachusetts-based Ambient Devices manufactures a smart umbrella that regularly receives wireless weather reports and will flash when rain is likely. Smart billboards in Japan peer back at passers-by to guess at their demographics and instantly change advertising for on-the-spot targeting. Dubai's smart license plates contact paramedics when a car crashes. Some students have worked with microcontrollers like the Arduino in high school. These devices have processors and can be programmed, but they aren't considered general-purpose computers because they don't have an operating system. Some refer to these devices as the Internet of Things, where low-cost sensors, computing, and communication put embedded smarts in all sorts of mundane devices so that these products can communicate with one another for data collection, analysis, and collective action. Zara's use of RFID tags can be considered an example of the Internet of Things, or IoT. IBM and General Electric are among firms pushing to create technology and common languages to turn this vision into a reality. Cities are using smart devices as constant monitors that share information on traffic, available parking spaces, and water quality. GE is outfitting almost everything it builds, from refrigerators to jet engines, with sensors and software so that these devices can share data and coordinate automatically to drive efficiency. GE thinks efficiency gains across multiple sectors, transportation, healthcare, energy, could boost global GDP by as much as $10 to $15 trillion by 2030. Research group Gartner estimates that there were over 25 billion connected devices in use in 2020. Early stage efforts show the potential for low-cost computing to improve healthcare quality while lowering costs. The Glow Cap from Vitality Inc. is a smart pill bottle that will flash when you're supposed to take your medicine. The World Health Organization estimates drug adherence at just 50%, and analysts estimate that up to $300 billion in increased medical costs and 125,000 annual deaths are due to patients missing their meds. Sometimes the reason for a missed dose is "I forgot," while other times a patient might stop taking a med due to the side effects or a complex insurance reason. AdhereTech's system will dispatch expert follow-up to help resolve issues so that patients stay on their meds. Incident data is collected for analysis and used in improving care regimens. Vitality CEO David Rose recently cited a test in which GlowCap users reported a 98% medication adherence rate. Proteus, a Novartis-backed venture, has developed a sensor made of food and vitamin materials that can be swallowed in medicine. Once inside you, the chip sends out a signal with vitals such as heart rate, body angle, temperature, sleep, and more. Proteus will then compile a report from the data and send it to your mobile device or email account. And a pill with built-in smarts can identify itself to help guard against taking counterfeit drugs, a serious worldwide concern. Pills that chat with mobile phones could help promote telemedicine, bringing healthcare to hard-to-reach rural populations. The Medtronic Pill Cam comes with up to 2 cameras that, once swallowed, can relay images of your innards. This is used to diagnose intestinal and colon problems. A similar device, the Medtronic Bravo Reflux capsule, does not have cameras, but it does have sensors and communication smarts to monitor and report on stomach acid. One of the most agile surfers of the new generations of computing waves is Apple Incorporated. Apple's breakout resurgence owes a great deal to the iPod. At launch, the original iPod sported a 5 gigabyte hard drive that Steve Jobs declared would put 1,000 songs in your pocket at a cost of $399. Less than 6 years later, Apple's highest capacity iPod sold for $50 less than the original, yet held 40 times the songs. The original iPod has also become the jumping off point for new business lines including the iPhone, Apple TV, Apple Watch, iPad, iTunes, the App Store, and HomePod. Amazon's Kindle also dramatically demonstrates Moore's Law-fueled evolution. The first Kindle sold for nearly $400. Less than 4 years later, Amazon was selling an updated version for 1/5 that price. Other factors influence price drops, such as being able to produce products and their components at scale. But Moore's Law and related price performance trends are clearly behind the price decreases we see across a wide variety of tech products and services. Apple's introduction of the iPad, complete with an iBook store, shows how Moore's Law rewrites the boundaries of competition, bringing a firm that started as a computer manufacturer and a firm that started as an online bookstore in direct competition with one another. While the change in hard drive prices isn't directly part of Moore's Law, hard drives are magnetic storage, not silicon chips, the faster and cheaper phenomenon applies to storage too. The firm's Search Inside the Book feature required digitizing the images and text from thousands of books in Amazon's catalog. Not only did making books searchable before purchase help customers, titles supporting Search Inside the Book enjoyed a 7% sales increase over non-searchable books. When the feature launched, the database to support this effort was 20 times larger than any database used by any commercial firm just 8 years earlier. For Amazon, the impossible had not just become possible, it became good business. If a firm is producing products subject to radically improving price performance, then the products will rapidly fall in value over time. That's great when it makes the firm's product cheaper and opens up new markets for the firm, but it can be deadly if the firm overproduces and has excess inventory sitting on shelves for long periods of time. Products with a significant chip-based component rapidly fall in value and can cause huge losses when overproduced. While the strategic side of tech may be the most glamorous, Moore's Law impacts mundane management tasks as well. Computers express data as bits that are either 1 or 0. While storage is most often listed in bytes, or 8 bits, which are the smallest unit of data in a computer, telecommunications capacity, or bandwidth, is often listed in bits per second. These are managerial definitions, but technically, you can see that there is a hierarchy of terminology concerning the size of computers. For example, a kilobyte is 2 to the 10th power, or 1024 bytes. A kilobit would be 1024 bits. And you can see from this that the prefix is related to size, and there is a mathematical component to this. For example, mega is 2 to the 20th power. Giga is 2 to the 30th power. For example, 1 gigabyte is equal to 1 billion bytes, roughly. Tera is equal to 2 to the 40th power. Peta is 2 to the 50th power. So 1 petabyte is 1 quadrillion bytes, roughly. Exa is 2 to the 60th power, and so on and so on. You can also see from this graphic on the bottom left that a bit can be a 1 or a 0. A series of 8 bits, forms a byte, which can be a letter, such as the letter K. So when you are typing text in Microsoft Word, you are informing the computer as to what character, and it will interpret this as a byte containing 8 bits. A tech product containing a microprocessor is transforming the lives of some of the world's most desperate poor, the cell phone. In the ultimate play of Moore's Law opening up new markets, Chinese mobiles priced at $10 have been available for years, while Google hopes its Android Go, with its stripped-down, data-light, low-power smartphone experience, will connect 1 billion of the world's currently unconnected population. Today, some 80% of the world's population lives within cellular network range, and the vast majority of mobile subscriptions are in developing countries. According to economist Jeffrey Sachs, the cell phone is the single most transformative technology for world economic development. A London Business School study found that for every 10 mobile phones per 100 people, a country's GDP bumps up 0.5%. 3/4 of the world's poorest people get their food and income from farming, but isolated rural farmers often suffer from an information asymmetry problem. Coming to the aid of farmers, the Ghanaian firm Osoko delivers market prices, farming tips, and other key information via text message on even the lowest-end cell phones. In one study, farmers using Osoko reported a 10% increase in revenue. Other reports have revenue increases as high as 25 to 40%. The breakaway region of Somaliland is not recognized by any nation, and its self-printed currency has plummeted in value, resulting in customers needing wheelbarrows of cash to make purchases. Mobile money such as Zad and e-Dahab eliminate the need for paper cash, increase security, and simplify money transfer. The M-Pesa mobile banking service run by Kenya's Safaricom allows customers to transfer cash using text messages. M-Pesa is spreading to other regions and is even in use in Afghanistan, while similar schemes are offered by firms such as South Africa's Wizit, Zad in Somaliland, and Gcash in the Philippines. Moore's Law is possible because the distance between the pathways inside silicon chips gets smaller with each successive generation. Fabs refers to the multi-billion-dollar factories used to manufacture semiconductors. While fabs are increasingly expensive to build, each new generation of fabs can crank out more chips per silicon wafer. Since the pathways are closer together, electrons travel shorter distances. If electronics now travel half the distance to make a calculation, that means the chip is twice as fast. While shrinking silicon pathways creates better chips, packing pathways tightly together creates problems associated with 3 interrelated forces: size, heat, and power, that together are threatening to slow down Moore's Law's advance. When processors are made smaller, the more tightly packed electrons will heat up a chip. The need to cool modern data centers draws a lot of power, and that costs a lot of money. So the distance between pathways inside silicon chips gets smaller over time, and each successive generation is a factor responsible for enabling the advance of Moore's Law. Keeping data centers cool is an expensive challenge and has prompted firms to try some very creative approaches. Microsoft has submerged over 850 servers on a patch of seabed, 117 feet underwater off the coast of Scotland's Orkney Islands, where a clever design lowers temperatures about 10 degrees cooler than land-based data centers. Facebook has a data center in Sweden, just 70 miles from the Arctic Circle. Average winter temperatures are negative 12 degrees Celsius. Data firm Green Mountain has a data center inside a Norwegian mountain, where each tech uses a chilled cooling system. IBM puts heat to good use by warming a public pool outside Zurich, and the Dutch startup Nerdalize says it'll put a mini data center in your home and use the heat to warm your house and heat your bathwater. To keep the fastest computers cool, many PCs, laptops, and video game consoles need fans, and most corporate data centers, sometimes referred to as server farms, have elaborate and expensive air conditioning and venting systems to prevent a meltdown. These server farms are thought to already draw 5% of all energy use in the United States. Google's chief technology officer has said that the firm spends more to power its servers than the cost of the servers themselves. Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, Yahoo, and Google have all built massive data centers in the Pacific Northwest away from their corporate headquarters, specifically choosing these locations for access to cheap hydroelectric power. It is important to realize that chips can't get smaller forever. While we're not certain where these limits are, chip pathways certainly can't be smaller than a single molecule, and the actual physical limit is likely larger than that. One way to address the problem of densely packed overheating chip designs is with multi-core microprocessors made by putting two or more lower power processor cores, think of a core as a calculating part of a microprocessor, on a single chip. For many applications, the multi-core chips will outperform a single speedy chip while running cooler and drawing less power. Multi-core processors are now mainstream. Today, nearly all smartphones, PCs, and laptops sold have at least a two-core or dual-core processor. The Microsoft Xbox and PlayStation gaming consoles both have 8-core processors. AMD offers a 32-core chip. A problem facing multi-core processors is running older software written for single-brain chips. Running older software using only one core at a time defeats the purpose of having a multi-core processor. Versions of Windows or the Mac OS that are aware of multi-core processors can assign one program to run on one core, while a second application is assigned to the next core. In order to take full advantage of multi-core chips, applications must be rewritten to split up tasks so that smaller portions of a problem are executed simultaneously inside each core. Writing code for this divide and conquer approach is not trivial. Some of the most aggressive adapters of multi-core chips have been the video game console manufacturers. Google has even begun designing its own chips to handle its specific AI needs. Another approach that's breathing more life into Moore's Law moves chips from being paper flat devices to built-up 3D affairs. By building up as well as out, firms are radically boosting speed and efficiency of chips. Intel has flipped upward the basic component of chips, the transistor. Transistors are the super tiny on-off switches in a chip that work collectively to calculate or store things in memory. A high-end microprocessor might include over 2 billion transistors. Intel says that on the minuscule scale of modern chip manufacturing, the new designs are 37% faster and half as power-hungry as conventional chips. The triple threat of size, heat, and power means that Moore's Law, perhaps the greatest economic gravy train in history, will likely come to a grinding halt in your lifetime. A few years back, researchers discovered that replacing a chip's aluminum components with copper could increase speeds up to 30%. But such innovations hold incremental promise compared to the kinds of gains we've seen in history. New processors made with silicon germanium, or graphene have all been mentioned as next-gen candidates. Hyper-efficient chips of the future may also be made out of carbon nanotubes. Other designs move away from electricity over silicon. Optical computing, where signals are sent via light rather than electricity, promises to be faster than conventional chips. If lasers can be mass-produced in miniature, silicon laser experiments show promise. One yet to be proven technology that could blow the lid off of what's possible today is quantum computing. Quantum computers, leveraging principles of quantum physics, employ qubits that can be both ones and zeros at the same time. Add a bit to a quantum computer and its capacity increases exponentially. Some speculate that quantum computers could one day allow pharmaceutical companies to create hyper-detailed representations of the human body that reveal drug side effects before they're even tested on humans. Quantum computing might also accurately predict the weather months in advance or offer unbreakable computer security. Pioneers in quantum computing include IBM, HP, NEC, and a Canadian startup named D-Wave, which has sold early-stage quantum computers to Google, NASA, and Lockheed Martin. Supercomputers are computers that are among the fastest of any in the world at the time of their introduction. Supercomputing was once the domain of governments and high-end research labs performing tasks such as simulating the explosion of nuclear devices or analyzing large-scale weather and climate phenomena. But it turns out, with a bit of tweaking, the algorithms used in this work are profoundly useful to business. Supercomputing is sometimes referred to as HPC for high-performance computing, and its use varies widely. While some firms own their own supercomputers, others lease capability from cloud providers or even governments. Modern supercomputing is typically done via a technique called massively parallel processing, computers designed with many microprocessors that work together simultaneously to solve problems. The fastest of these supercomputers are built using hundreds or even thousands of microprocessors, all programmed to work in unison as one big brain. While supercomputers use special electronics and software to handle the massive load, the processors themselves are often of the off-the-shelf variety that you'd find in a computer at Best Buy. The $500 million Aurora system being built by Intel and HP Enterprise at Argonne National Laboratory will be the first so-called exascale computer in the U.S., meaning it can perform a quintillion calculations per second. This will allow scientists to move from simulating an airplane wing to simulating an entire aircraft before it is built. The system is designed for artificial intelligence use and will be leveraged in drug discovery and climate change research, among other applications. Another technology known as grid computing is further transforming the economics of high performance. With grid computing, firms place special software on its existing PCs or servers that enables these computers to work together on a common problem. Linear problems are least likely to be solved through grid computing. Another term you might hear is cluster computing. Computing clusters are also built with commodity servers, but they usually take advantage of special software and networking hardware to more tightly link them together to function as one. Massive collections of computers running software that allows them to operate as a unified service also enable new service-based computing models, such as software as a service and cloud computing. Google, Microsoft, Salesforce.com, and Amazon are among the firms that have sunk billions into these Moore's Law-enabled server farms, creating entirely new businesses that promise to radically redraw the software and hardware landscape, while bringing gargantuan computing power to the little guy. In tech circles, delay is sometimes referred to as latency, and low latency is good. This concludes Chapter 5, Part A.